Hello folks, this is my standard sound check. If you can hear everything clearly and you can see me, hi. If you could just pop a note in the live chat, then I'll know everything's working and we can start promptly at 7:30. See you at the bottom of the hour. Good evening everyone, and happy day after Boxing Day, and welcome to In Studio Live, the 43rd edition and the last one of 2020. So here we are, end of the year, looking forward to 2021. It's got to be a better year than this year. It just has to be. It couldn't be any worse, could it? Well, let's get started, shall we, with the show tonight. And as ever, if you're new here, welcome. It's great to have you watching, and welcome to everyone who's already in the live chat. And if you're new, you may not know, we have a live chat going on during the live stream. Do feel free to say hello in there. I try to greet people. Now, I've said hello to many people on there, so anyone I might have missed, my apologies, but welcome Andy, Bob, Peter, Michael, and who else? There's other people on there as well that I've missed. I know I have. Oh yes, Terry and Gary, already on there. We've got 11 people online at the moment, according to my stats. But we all know that YouTube lies, so I don't know how many people are here at the moment. Right, if you are new, if I could just ask you to take a moment to go and hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell icon, so that you get to know when new content is coming up on the channel, so you don't miss anything. If you're watching this on a replay, and I suspect there'll be a few people watching on replay rather than live because we are between Christmas and New Year, just drop me a comment in the comments so I know you're watching on there. And everyone else, just go and hit the like button, please. That is a way of signaling to YouTube that this is a good video to present to people. It helps me. And if it helps me with the live stream, it will help with what I can do with the live stream in terms of improved content further down the line. So if you can do that, we have a little contest each week to see if we can beat the 17 likes by the end of the intro. That's our record at the moment. Don't think we're going to get it because we've only got 12 people watching at the moment and 8 likes. So maybe we'll pick that up during the next year. We'll beat that. And as ever, do let people know about the show. It's a weekly show. Well, I say weekly. We're about to go twice weekly, but I'll explain more about that next week, about what's happening and the changes. Things will stay in full on YouTube for a while, and then they will get cut down, with the full version going exclusively to my Academy members. But there will be extracts on YouTube. Some of the best bits will be on there as standalone videos. I've just seen another name pop up in the chat. Adam, hi Adam, nice to have you aboard for the live stream this week. And there, so anyone who doesn't know how it works, we do have time for Q&A on the live stream. So if you've got any questions, photography related, then stick them in the live chat and I will try and pick them up as the show goes on. And good evening Tim as well, who's just joined us. So yeah, if you're watching on the replay, stick your questions in the comments. I will pick them up on there. In fact, you can stick questions in any of the videos on my YouTube channel. I do read them all and I do answer them. And in fact, tonight's first Q&A question comes from a different video, but we'll come on to that later. If you find the shows helpful and you want to help with the show in a financial way, I've got this thing set up called BuyMeACoffee. It's run by the BuyMeACoffee team, except I famously don't drink coffee. I drink tea and lots of it. So my link says buy me a tea rather than buy me a coffee. And I want to just say thanks for this week's cuppa to David Wayne. So if you're watching, David, cheers. Thanks for the drink. And everyone else who has contributed to the Buy Me a Cuppa thing, your name will appear on the mug in due course. There's a little bit of a backlog. I've been overwhelmed by the number of people who've done that. So it's taken me a while to get through everybody's names. So your name will appear there, trust me, and I'll make sure that everyone's name appears at some point. But there is another mug on my desk, which I've got to mention. I actually got this one filled with tea as well. And this is one, I've got to say thanks to Andy Grady for this, who sent me just before Christmas a mug with my name on it, with the studio logo on it. Actually, you can't see that very well. Let's change the display to that one. You can see a lot clearer. Yeah, it's got my name on it. It's got the studio logo on it. And if I turn it round to that side, anyone who's brewing up for me at the studio now knows what to put in the mug. Tea, milk, no sugar. So thanks, Andy, if you're watching this. Really appreciate it. So I've got 2 mugs on the go tonight because of that. So anyway, let's get back to our standard display. Here we go. I do try and say thank you to everyone who's supporting the live stream financially. And this week, I'm going to send out my inspiration sheet for New Year's goals. Now, there's a few of you I know who are Academy members. You've already got access to this, but to everyone else, I'm just going to email it out in a day or so's time. And it covers the same sort of ground of the things I've been talking about, so it's a useful reference for you on setting some goals for the coming year. And yeah, that's all I want to say. Facebook group. If you don't know about the Facebook group, I think everyone I've seen in the chat does. The Facebook group and the live stream now go hand in hand. And that's the link over my shoulder for it. And it's really where we carry on the conversation during the week. And it's where you can post images. I'll provide feedback there, or I'll take images from there to talk about on the live stream. You can ask questions there, and you can encourage each other. But even more important to mention about it, because it's going to be playing a key role in a couple of other things as well. I'll be talking about it in a little while, a challenge for at least the start of 2019, my Photo Bingo Challenge. And the Facebook group is where you'll find out all the information on there. It's where you'll post your photos as part of that challenge. I'll talk about it a little bit later. But also, we're going to be talking about goals for 2021. And the Facebook group is where we're going to encourage each other to keep to our goals so that we don't fall by the wayside within the first week, that we keep those habits, those goals, those aims for improving our photography going throughout the coming year. So if you're not a member of the Facebook group and you're watching this video, go and join the group. There's the link over my shoulder. It's also down below in the show notes on there, and that's where everything's carrying on there. Now, talking of the Facebook group, the banner on that group I change each week, and the current one is from John Kiss, as you can see over my shoulder, but I'm going to be choosing a new image submitted by somebody during this week, and I'll reveal whose image that is at the end of the show. So, will it be yours? Stay tuned to the end to find out. I also have a newsletter, and again, link down below if you want to sign up for that. So what have we got on the show this week? I'm just thinking, did I edit this slide or not? Yeah, I did. We're talking about goals for the new year, specifically photography goals, but the techniques I'm going to be talking about will apply to any area of your life that you want to set a goal for, your New Year's revolution, so that the techniques will help you keep those goals and keep those decisions of what you're going to do in the coming year. We are going to look at image feedback. I've got some images from the Facebook group to talk about, live Q&A, and one question that came in, well, it was over a week ago now, but tonight's the night I'm going to deal with it. So, have we beaten the record on number of likes? The answer is no. We've only got 9 likes, only 14 people watching tonight. I thought it might be low numbers tonight because we're on one of those non-days, aren't we? That it's not Christmas, it's not New Year. We're not getting ready for work. We can hardly remember that it's a Sunday. So I had a feeling numbers would be low tonight. Right, I've got a question for you, which will tie in with what we're doing as our main topic. I've already asked it in the live chat, but if you didn't see it in there, here's the thing. Did you set yourself a New Year's resolution for 2020? And if you did, what was it? And how long did you manage to keep it? So just let me know in the chat whether you were able to do that. And if you're watching this on the replay, then answer the questions in the comments, because I'm really interested to know about that and see what people are doing with resolutions. Because as we go on tonight, I'm going to challenge you to set some photographic resolutions for the coming year. So Q&A, have we got any questions in the chat? Well, I can't see any at the moment, but do put them in there. There is a bit of a delay, so by the time you've typed it and me seeing it, there can be a little bit of a time lag on there with that. And Tim has said he can't remember whether he set any New Year's resolutions on that. If you've got questions during the week, you can always email me at contactme@ians-studio.co.uk on there. And let me just talk about our 2021 photo challenge. It's Ian's Photo Bingo, and it starts on January the 1st. So we're coming up to it now, and what you will get is a bingo card. It will look something like this one that you can see over my shoulder. There'll be 5 rows of 5 columns on there. Each square will have a topic on it, a photographic topic for you to, photograph. And the idea is that you will pick, on any given day, you'll pick one of those squares, create a photo based on that topic, and post it to my Facebook group. Now, you can only choose one per day. That's to stop somebody blitzing it all on the first day, because this will work better if we can do it over a period of time. So everyone will have a different card. So you might have topics that nobody else has. It's theoretically possible because they're randomly selected from about 55 or so possible topics, and you'll get 25 of them. And the full details is on the blog on my website. There's a link on the Facebook page to it as well. If you have a look through announcements, you'll find the link to the whole thing. At the moment, we've got 20 odd people signed up to do it. So if you haven't signed up yet and you're watching this, then just find that link in the Facebook group. Put your name down for one of the numbers. There's about 9 numbers available, 8 or 9 numbers available now. Find one that's not taken, put your name down against it. If by any chance we do get to 30, then I will open up another block of numbers after that. But at the moment, it's a number between 1 and 30 that hasn't already been taken. And then first thing on New Year's Day, again, probably via the Facebook group, you'll get a message saying this is where to look for your card, and it will be, everyone will have a different card, and you can take a photo and post it. But it can only be one a day. They don't have to be consecutive days. So if you've got some busy time and you can't get out with your camera, it doesn't matter if you don't submit one for a few days. But what is worth knowing is there are prizes for completing the card and prizes for sub-challenges. And the blog post tells you all about what they are. So the first person to get all 4 corners, the first person to get the middle row on their card, or to get the middle column, I think it is, and the diagonals and top row and bottom row, things like that, there will be a prize. Now, the way the prizes are working, I'm doing it as credits. and they are challenge credits. And you will amass a number of those, and you can then trade them in for things such as a dedicated one-to-one time with me to go through your portfolio, or a review of some of your images, or it could be, if you're local to Stockport, it could be studio time, it could be going on a shoot with me, all those sorts of things. So it's worth having a go at it. And if you don't get enough points through doing this challenge, as other challenges go on through the year, you can have a go and try and earn more points then, and you can cash them in later. They're not going to expire. So that's the challenge that's coming up, and it'd be great if you sign up for it and have a go at it. And there's a few names I've seen on the chat who haven't signed up for it yet, and I will challenge you to have a go at it this year. So let's talk about New Year's goals and setting goals and objectives. And we're going to look at how to do it, some best practices, ways which you can set those goals which will mean they mean something and that you can achieve them. And also I'm going to give you some ideas for goals to go for in the coming year. Some things which might inspire you. You don't have to do them. These are ideas to try and get you thinking about setting goals. There. And then at the end of it, I'm going to encourage you to think about your goals and to actually declare what your goals are. And you'll understand why I'm saying that as we go through this. So, New Year's resolutions. First thing to say, if you're watching this on a replay and January's come and gone, it doesn't have to be January the 1st for setting a new goal or a New Year resolution on there. It can be done anytime. What about using your birthday? So if you're coming up to your birthday, perhaps use your birthday as the start point. My wife uses post-holiday goals. Not that we're being able to do much regarding holidays these days, but she uses that time away to think about things that she wants to change, objectives, and puts them in place when we come back from holiday. Well, what about post-lockdown goals? Once we're free, once hopefully we are free of this virus, maybe set goals at that point. We're entering a new world, and maybe set goals for that time. And if none of those apply as you're watching this, then today is as good a day as any to set a goal and objective to go forward. So, New Year's resolutions. No, that's not actually a typo. And I didn't misspeak it several times. I don't know whether you spotted. I said New Year's resolutions, not New Year's resolutions. I tend to call them New Year's resolutions because they aim to overthrow the old regime. That's what a revolution does. They aim to turn your world upside down, revolving. And the same goals come round and round every year. So that's why I tend to refer to them as New Year's resolutions on that. So it's really about setting a goal, setting an objective that you're going to commit to for the coming year on there. But let's try and break this cycle of the same objectives coming round each year, because we're not able to keep to them. And it's important that we find a way to break that cycle. We find a way to come up with objectives that will work and that will enable us to develop as photographers and improve as photographers. So, what about these new goals and objectives? Well, I'm going to give you some examples as we go through. They're all from the world of photography, but they don't have to be. The techniques I'm going to talk about can apply to any aspect of your life. So I don't know if you're watching this and you're not interested in photography. I did share this around so people who were just generally thinking about resolutions could have a look at it. If you're not interested in photography, substitute your own interests in there. The techniques for keeping the aims and goals apply across whatever. Now, if you've worked in business, if you've worked in an office, you've probably come across at some point this idea of SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T goals. So what are they? Well, they are goals that that meet a criteria so that they are something you can be appraised on. And the S stands for specific, measurable. Now, A, when you look it up, could either be achievable, that was the one I always knew it as, but some websites have it as assignable. In other words, it's a goal you can give to somebody else. That doesn't seem quite right to me, but that's management speak, I guess. They need to be realistic and they need to be time specific. That's what SMART stands for. Well, I've got my own version of this, a slightly simplified one, which is 4 points. And my first point, I say they need to be realistic and achievable. They need to be specific and measurable. They need to be challenging, and they need to be ones for which you can be accountable. So realistic and achievable, 1, specific and measurable, challenging and accountable. Let's look at those 4 areas and see how we can use this to improve our photography. So the first of those, realistic and achievable. The biggest reason that people fail with their New Year's resolutions or resolutions, the biggest reason, when you think about it, is that the goals that are set aren't realistic. That they're things that you aspire to, but they're so far away that it's never going to be realistic to actually achieve it. Now, I'll give you an example. The photo every day. That is a great goal to go for. I've started January the 1st with that objective for many, many, many years. I achieved it 1 year, 2008. I don't do it every year. I'm not doing it this coming year, but it's not realistic for me to set that as a goal anymore because life is just too busy. And if you know your life is too busy, don't set a goal that there's no way you're ever going to keep to it. Set a lesser goal. So in this example, instead of a photo every day, why not set a goal of 1 photo every week? So that you've got something that's achievable, that's realistic with the time that you can put into it. Specific and measurable, our second point on how to set goals. Being a better photography or doing more of are not specific and measurable goals. You need to pick something that you can know whether you have achieved it. How do you know whether you've become a better photographer? It's impossible to measure that. I mean, we're all meant to improve anyway, so that's probably going to happen. But as a goal, it's not specifically measurable to know that you've achieved it. Somebody can't come along and say, yes, yeah, you've done that. That means you are a better photographer. So what is measurable? Maybe going for a Royal Photographic Society distinction, that's measurable. Creating a number of photos within a period of time is measurable. Completing your Ian's Photo Bingo challenge card is measurable. You either do it or you don't. So that's what you want to be aiming for when setting a goal. To go out twice a month to do some photography for at least half a day is measurable. If you had that as your goal, you could get to the end of January and you can look and say, did I have 2 half days doing photography? Yes, yay, I've met my goal. It's specific and it's measurable. Challenging. That's our third one. We've looked at achievable and realistic. We've looked at specific and measurable. Now we're looking at point 3, challenging. And this is the flip side of something being realistic. Yes, you should have something that's going to push you a little. It's got to be realistic, but it's still got to push your limits a bit. It's no good setting a goal for something that you're already doing. It's no good me setting a goal of, doing a live stream once a week on a Sunday night. I'm already doing that. That's not a goal that's going to push me further with what I'm doing. So find something that's going to push you that little bit more. So if you don't go out regularly to do photography, then set a goal to go out to do that, so it just pushes you a bit more. If you're going out twice a month and you want to push yourself more, pick a goal of 3 times a month, so it's that little bit of a challenge. If you want to learn another genre of photography, then perhaps instead of saying, I want to do more, well, I'm going to use Michael's, I'm going to pick on Michael's comment from the chat here, because what Michael said, he'd hoped to do more fashion work, and branching out into other areas, and COVID pretty much put an end to it. Now, if your goal was do more fashion work over the next year, more is a nebulous term. Now we're in a world of COVID restrictions, so maybe if that's your goal for 2021, Michael, maybe set a goal that by the end of 2021 you will have shot, you have done, 6 fashion shoots, and have that as a specific goal. You might want to break it down and think, well, let's be realistic about it. I'm bound to get the chance to do some shooting before, say, the end of April, and set a goal to get one of those 6 in before the end of April. So it's specific, but it's a bit of a challenge. And you might have to think around, well, okay, what are the restrictions? I can't do a studio shoot because enclosed spaces and COVID and all that. Then maybe you need to think about do one of those shoots outside instead. So think of a specific thing, but something that's just going to push you on that. Right. And why do I say your challenges, your goals should be challenging, the goals that you set? It's only when you push yourself that you really improve. You've got to push yourself, push your limits in one way or another, and that's how you develop as a photographer. It's how we develop as people, by just pushing on just that little bit. Now, this next slide I've called goal sheet. It's not actually a sheet as such, but what I want you to do is to write down your goals for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. 4 points on there. Write them down, and then once you've decided what your goals are for the year, look at them and think, do they meet those four points? I've just realized there's a point. This actually does lead on to that other point. Do they meet those 3 points on there of being realistic and achievable, measurable and specific, and challenging? Do they meet those? And if they do meet those, then we move on to our point 4, which is accountability. Now, there's 2 sides to this accountability. First of all, having those goals written down specifically will help them, you get them up here in the brain. Then that bit of paper, if you put it somewhere that you're going to see on a regular basis, on the fridge, on the notice board, by your computer screen, in your camera bag, whatever, it will help. It's a message from past you to current you to say, you said you were going to do this, you've got that reminder. But if it's just you, it doesn't help. This is where our point 4 is, accountability. So what I'd like you to do, once you've worked out your photography goals in those 4 headings, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months, put a post on the Facebook group saying, my goals for 2021 are, and list them there. And that's made them public. And then as a community, we can try and keep you to those goals. We can help encourage you to continue with that. And we can hold you accountable to yourself for it. So let me look at some examples of what sort of goals you might want to set. So the first one as an idea is, let's look at some ideas for your 12-month goals. And the theme that people sort of pick up on is along the lines of, I want to shoot more regularly. Now that doesn't meet our criteria of specific and measurable on that. So maybe you could say, right, I'm going to produce a calendar for next year. It might not be one you're going to publish. It might not be one that you're going to give to anybody else. It might just be for your own wall, based on the photos that you take throughout the year. And each month you want to take 1 photo you can use on the calendar. That's an achievable thing. So 1 photo a month that you can be proud of and can go on the calendar. So how about that as an idea for pushing you forward? 1 photo a month. How about weekly highlights? Now here's an interesting challenge for you, and this will work really, really well with the Facebook group. A goal for the next 12 months is that each week you will aim to shoot at least 1 new photograph, and then 1 photograph that you have shot that week you post to the Facebook group and you write up about why you shot it, how you shot it, your thought processes behind it, how you got the image, why you composed it the way you did, something like that. Your weekly highlight. 1 image once a week. And maybe set a goal that every Friday night you will post an image to the Facebook group as your weekly highlight. And it's 1 image, not the whole set. You choose 1 image from the week and post it. Why do I say write about it and how you create it and why you created it? Because if there's one thing I have learned with my career is you understand photography far, far better when you have to explain it to somebody else. That's how I've learned most of my photography, is by teaching it, because I've had to think it through and understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and put it down in words. So if you have to type that up on Facebook for the week to explain it to others, you will understand that yourself. and you will grow as a photographer throughout the year with a challenge like that. How about that as an idea for you for a goal for the coming year? Or I mentioned it before, the photo of the day. Now I know Peter has done the effectively photo of the day. He's got his own group set up for that. And that's a great way of getting yourself into this shooting mode. But I tell you, it is probably one of the toughest challenges you can ever take on. Some of us did the lockdown challenge early this year that I set, to take a photo each day during that, month of lockdown that we had. And towards the end, I was flagging, that was 1 month, not 12 months. And I was finding it difficult. I did manage it. I didn't manage to post them all, but I did manage to take them all on there. But one new photo every day, and then post it online. Feel free to use my Facebook group as the place that you post on there. And we can encourage you. We can give you feedback. The problem with it is you can run out of ideas very, very quickly with it. But one piece of advice, if you pick this as your goal, as a goal, remember that any item can be a subject. And it really does teach you to compose and to think about subjects. And for me as a professional, I found this exercise really, really helpful, because sometimes professionally I'll have to photograph something and it's not the most inspiring of things. And having done this sort of exercise, it teaches me to find a way to present something, even if the subject itself isn't particularly photogenic or particularly inspiring. What about 2 cups of tea? You can easily come up with something like that. And these are all photos that I took in 2008 as part of my when I did the challenge. And you can see some of these shots are fairly mundane items, like a banana skin, just on a bit of a white background there. I was doing my tax returns, so I put together an image like this with money and the demand for it. And then I was out and about and I spotted a whole load of for sale and to let signs. So I thought, oh, that might make an interesting photo. So I made that as my photo of the day. At one point we got some whole new crockery, and we had to put it in the dishwasher first before we could use it. So I loaded the dishwasher up and did this shot, which, although it looks black and white, isn't. It's actually a full colour image, but just there's no colour in the kitchen there. And I posted that as my image of the day. So I was using the things of where I was to be able to create those sorts of images. And sometimes I set something up, like a pile of books, or even just a key on a bit of white card. I was getting desperate some days doing that challenge. But all those images have got one thing in common, other than the fact that I created them as part of that challenge in 2008. What have they all got in common? Well, every single one of those images I put on Alamy, and every single one of the ones I've just shown you actually then sold. So I actually made money out of doing that challenge, because I was thinking stock photos as I was doing it. So it helped me professionally by doing that sort of challenge. So those are sort of some 12-month goals you might think about. What about 6-month goals? Let's focus on things like getting training and those sort of ideas. Well, you might decide that your goal for the 6 months is to join my academy and work through all the inspiration sheets in the first 6 months of next year, to get training that way. Other online training facilities are available, as the saying goes. You might want to get come to a specific training session when I can eventually run them again. or some one-to-one training or one-to-one mentoring, which I can offer. And hopefully, beginning of next year, I'm going to be announcing my my mentoring packages, where I will work with people over the course of a number of weeks or months to really focus in on your photography, regular phone calls, regular reviews, to really help you and push you to the next level with your photography. That's a paid service, by the way, when I do that. Or it might be to join the camera club. All these different ways to try and, instead of just improve, these might be your goals for 6 months, to do one of these or multiple of these items. Or it might be to watch so many YouTube videos per month, specifically about photography on there. So let's have a look at some of these, just to get you thinking about online training. Yes, there's my stuff, and I'd always encourage you to come and look at my training facilities and what I can offer. And if you can't find it, just drop me an email saying I need training on this, and I'm sure I can sort you out. But there are other facilities as well. Lynda.com, Kelby Training will offer things. Mark Cleghorn's The Photographer Academy on there, and plenty of other resources online that you could consider. Or when we eventually can run events again, consider coming along to some of mine if you're local. And these are sort of behind the scenes shots to show the sort of things we get up to here at the studio when we are able to. Training sessions, yep, those that I've just shown you, but I would rather, obviously I'd love it if you come to me for training, but you don't have to. There are colleges as well you could go to, your local college, or other photographic studios. If you're not near here, go and talk to them, talk to other photographers. In fact, get training from a range of photographers, to be fair, because we all approach things in different ways, and you'll be a much more rounded photographer if you look at different ways that people teach different techniques on that. One-to-one training, as I said, I'm going to be providing a much more focused, specific mentoring program. If you are a member of my academy, you already have access to a certain amount of that. A couple of calls a year you can make with me. I know Tim on the chat takes me up on that, and I work with Tim on a regular basis to try and push him forward with his photography. And I can set up formal training if you need it, or we can do mentoring and portfolio reviews and things like that. You might want to think about joining a camera club. Okay, a lot of them aren't meeting at the moment, but there's lots up and down the country who are still meeting via Zoom and virtually. In fact, I'm going to be speaking at one in April. Well, I normally go over to on the Wirral, but they've asked me to speak this time via Zoom in April, assuming that we're not allowed to meet by then. And yeah, they've got competitions, they've got theme shoots. Again, things just to push you. So getting involved with a group. Actually, come to think of it, my Facebook group and this live stream, we're a sort of camera club already. So getting involved and being involved with this on a weekly basis, then perhaps that might be your goal. Maybe your goal is to make sure you watch the live stream, either live or recorded during the week if you can't watch it live, and to submit 3 photos each week to the Facebook group for feedback. Maybe that could be your goal on there. YouTube, it's a great resource, but there is a lot of dross on there, to be fair, on it, and some of it might even be stuff I've created, who knows. Yeah, there's a lot of material there. If you do search through it, you can find some good stuff, and there is some good stuff on my channels as well, and I've got 3 channels. So maybe your goal is to work your way through my back catalogue of training videos, or somebody else's training videos, or to find 3 or 4 channels that you're just going to follow on YouTube. How about that as a goal for the coming year? here's one really for a specific time scale. Now I've said for the next 3 months, depending on whether we get locked down or not, you may not be able to do it in the next 3 months. Hopefully we can. But these are ideas of set yourself a goal of doing one day or one shoot with certain restrictions applied. Because one of the best ways to improve as a photographer is actually to restrict yourself and to hold back on something and put restrictions on what you can and can't do. What do I mean by this? Well, let's have a look. How about a no zoom day? What do I mean by a no zoom day? Well, go out with just a single prime lens and decide that that particular day, that's all you're going to use. If you haven't got a prime lens, maybe get some masking tape and just fix your zoom in a particular position on your camera for the day. Or if you can't do that, maybe you've got a compact camera, just don't zoom it and just say, I'm always going to use it at its widest or at its most zoomed in on there, and do the shoots entirely that way for that day. And you will learn a lot about how to compose because you have to think differently with it. I did that once. It's one of the trips that I did. I went out from the ship one day. It was a port I knew quite well, and I thought, how am I going to make this more interesting? I've been here loads of times, and I ended up going out with just one lens. Now it was a zoom lens, but it was my ultra wide zoom, which went from 12 to 24mm on the full frame camera. So all I had available to me was ultra wide shots. And that really makes you think about, well, how can I compose on this by restricting myself to that? How about trying a no chimping day? Oh, this one's tough, isn't it? Put a bit of paper or card over that viewfinder on the back of your camera, and it's just like in the film days. You couldn't go and see, you couldn't look at the photos on the back of the camera. You just had to know your settings. How about trying that for a day and post the results? That'd be a nice challenge for you. You have to really think about your shots. Do I need exposure compensation or not? And not just by taking the shot on the back of the camera and having a look on the back of the camera at what you've got. See how you get on with that one. How about doing a day where you are only in manual mode? Go out somewhere and just put your camera in manual mode. Don't use aperture priority, don't use shutter priority, don't use program mode, manual mode and just manual mode. And spend the day with your camera doing that. You are in full control. What happens? I did it. I did it when I visited Quebec, and here's some of the images I created on that. All in manual mode. Yeah, and there were a lot that I messed up on because I didn't get the settings right. This one was what I was aiming for, but it took me several shots to get it in manual mode. And just try something like that. Maybe your goal would be to pick 3 of those for the year and set yourself a goal that in the first 3 months you will do something like going out, doing a no zoom day, doing a no chimping day, or doing a manual mode only day. Maybe set that within the first 3 months. And you can see I got some great shots that day. Ones I'm really proud of and really pleased with because I restricted myself for a day. Here's another one. Do a 1-20-20 challenge. Many of you know what that is because we ran the challenge as a group a few months back. If you don't know what it is, do go back and look at some of the past live streams where I talk about it. The idea is you go to a location, you have 2 hours, that's the 120 of the 120 minutes, and you just have to take 20 images. But here's the catch, there's no retakes. Every shot needs to be a different subject, no deletions. If you mess it up, you mess it up, you move on, and you agree to show your photos. So if you do that, and feel free to let me have the photos, I'll do them, put them into a slideshow, and we'll share them as part of the live stream so that people can see what you've done. So it's worth having that accountability. Let people see your work and make that part of your challenge. So those are just some ideas. I'm sure you've got plenty of your own. But what I want you to do now is find a bit of paper and write down those goals. Keep a copy of it yourself, put it somewhere prominent, then post your goals to the Facebook group. And we can then try and keep you accountable for it, because that's the important step 4, that somebody is checking up on you. Because if somebody else knows what your goals are, they can ask you. And you're going to think, yeah, Ian's going to ask me about these goals in a few weeks' time, I better do something. So there you go. And if they're posted in on the group, I will make sure that in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months and 12 months, we post and ask how you're getting on there. So you should end up with a piece of paper that says my 1 month goal is, my 3 month goal is, my 6 month goal is, my 12 month goal is, and then post that information on the Facebook group. I look forward to seeing what your goals are, and I look forward to holding you accountable to them so that you can develop as a photographer, you can improve as a photographer, you can take your photography to the next level. Right, Q&A part 2. Have we got any questions in chat? Let me have a look what's over in chat. Right. Yeah, John was popping in, not sure how long he could stay. Hopefully you can catch up, John, on there. Peter was saying he started late 2019 with his photos of the day, and he was determined, and he created the Facebook group. And that interaction there, the Facebook group was holding him accountable, I guess, to help with keeping him going, because people were watching what was going on there. All right, I haven't got any questions for Q&A from the group there, but I have got one that came in through my YouTube channel. And James Selwyn Photos asked, is it possible to create a catalogue, this is Lightroom catalogue, of smart previews only without importing the raw files from a compact flash card? And he went on to explain a little bit more that he'd like to give his card to a co-worker at the end of an event, have them create a smart preview, work on them at home, and then he can send those changes to him to apply to the master files. And he's trying to skip the import step in Lightroom. Right, well, James, I don't know whether you're watching this. I'm guessing you're not watching live, but I'll send you on that comment, I'll send you the link to this thing, so hopefully you are going to watch this. Right, what you're asking for within Lightroom, you can't do it exactly as you're asking, because in order to get the smart previews, you've got to actually import the full set of images. So there are 2 ways you can achieve your objective. The first is you can give the card to your colleague, get them to import those images into a catalogue on their laptop. They would have to import them all. And in fact, I would say the quickest solution for you is probably just import without creating the smart previews on there, on your colleague's laptop, and they've just got the the full set, they can work on it, and then they can export that shoot as a catalogue after they've done their work and send that to you, which you can then import into your catalogue with their changes, and that will work. So you could do it that way. The other way you could do it, James, is for you to have your laptop with you. You import the images into your catalogue where you're going to need them anyhow. Once they are in there, you can then create or export those files as a new catalogue without the original media, just the S.M.A.R.T previews. Let me get Lightroom set up and I'll try and show you what I mean by all that. So, yeah, here we go. Right, these are the images I've got in here are actually the images for that I'm going to be reviewing shortly. So, what can we do? Well, Control A to highlight them all, and the first thing I want to do is make sure I've got the S.M.A.R.T previews for them. So under Library, Previews, Build S.M.A.R.T previews, if you haven't already done it. So I click that, and yep, we've got S.M.A.R.T previews for all of them already. So next thing I want to do is to export these as a catalogue in their own right. So export as catalogue, and I'm going to put it in a temp one, and I'm going to call this IMB test previews. And looking down at the options here, what I've done is I've cleared the export negative files, so they're not going with it. I'm including the S.M.A.R.T previews, and optionally you can include the standard previews as well. So if I leave those and say save, and it's there we go, it's done it quickly. It will do, because these are all JPEGs anyway and they're small files. So now this is where I can't remember where I exported it to, so I'm just going to do export catalog again to find that folder and go up, and oh, it's under pictures. Right, so underneath there, and open it in a new window, easiest way to get there. So now if we look in this folder, what have we got? We've got the catalogue, we've got the S.M.A.R.T previews, and we've got the ordinary previews. So I could now, in fact, I'm just going to go over here, cancel that dialogue. I'm going to exit Lightroom. Yes, I really do want to quit. Skip that time. And I can open this catalogue, which will have everything in it. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Lightroom, I bet I have completely screwed up Lightroom at this point. Lightroom does seem to have a problem. If you try to open a catalogue quickly after the previous one has still closing. Let's have a look. Task Manager. Right, bring down Task Manager. Have we got Adobe Lightroom open? No. Ah, right, okay, we're opening, finally. And get rid of that. So now I've got all these files in here. Now, it will with this, mine are going to show up as still having the original files there because they're still on the disk. It's pointing at it, but if I was to put this on a folder somewhere else, it would just work off smart previews. So I could do some work on these images. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick this one of John's, and I'm going to go into the develop module just to show you what's going on here. And I'm going to convert it to black and white on there. And I'm going to make it really contrasty. A bit of light in the shadows on it. Not much. So I want some of that down. On that, I'm going to talk about this image later, but I want something like that. Okay. So I've done that work on there. I'm going to go back to my other catalogue. So open recent review catalogue. So this is now like going over to the other machine. So what I've just done is what your colleague would do, John. And what I'm now going to show is what you would do. So this is back on your machine. They can then send you that catalogue, those files, exactly as they were. They're working on the previews. And at this point, oh, come on, Lightroom, that's better. You can see we've not got those changes that I've done here, but I can then say import from another catalogue. And let's get the right folder. We go into there, and what we I think there's the catalogue, the one that we want. So I say choose that, and it says, do you want to import the whole lot? Yes, I do. I can then choose to merge those settings. Do I want to preserve the old settings as a virtual copy? Well, if you've both been working on the images, you might want to do that. In this case, no, I don't. On there, and I can say import. And look what's happened. That edit that I'd done of the train here has now gone to black and white. So all those changes have come in from that file with the previous. So that's basically the way you do it, but that relies on you creating the catalogue to start with. But remember, you could always do that once you've got back to base. You've created your catalogue, you pull them into your catalogue, you can just export that subset into a folder, zip it up, and then use WeTransfer to send it over to your colleague with just the smart previews, because the size of those, comparatively speaking, is small. So you've got those options. That's the best I can come up with to try and achieve what you're wanting to achieve, James, with that. So I hope that's been of help to you on there. So yeah. So, sorry you can't do exactly what you're looking, but those are your workarounds. Right, image feedback. Let's look at these images then. And we're getting towards the end of the show now. I just want to go through images which were sent in. And this will be a fairly quick go through. So let's go back over to Lightroom, into the develop module. This one's by John Barton that he sent me. Actually, I want to have a look at the shooting data on this. And IPTC, so EXIF. No, still don't have any shooting data. He sent it direct as well. That came via my email address. Right, yeah, this one, John, I would say a couple of things with this. You've just clipped the chimneys up at the top here. Just watch for that on there. I'm just going to full screen. So you can see, I'd be very careful with your cropping on there. There's an old saying that says, if you look after the four corners, the center of the image will look after itself. So that I find a little bit distracting. The sky's blown out, which is unfortunate. There's no way you could avoid that with the setup that you've got there. So what you can do with it is my old standby black and white processing, maybe bring those highlights down. Now if you'd sent me the raw file, we could have got a little bit better with that, just to bring that down just a fraction and bring the shadows up on there, a bit more contrast and a bit more clarity with it. And I think that's a better shot for you. Now, we perhaps need a little bit more light on there. I'm going to show a technique I don't often do, which is to just use the radial filter. And I want this to be really feathered. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to produce a radial filter that covers this, and in fact I don't need it quite that feathered. Bring that back and bring it up a fraction to about there. Now let me get the settings right on it. Actually I should have reset that before I did anything, but it was helpful to know that we've just got that. I also need to invert it, because what I want to do is just to bring the exposure up very slightly on our subject there. With that, maybe a little bit on the contrast there. So just to show you the difference that makes, I'll just toggle that on and off. You can see it goes from light to dark on there. And it just means that he's a bit more prominent in the frame on that. So that's what I would do with that, John, on there. So let's come out of the radial tool and move on to the next image. Michael, one of Michael's. Now he admitted these were sort of snapshots, and they are of Santa in his sleigh. It's unfortunate that we've got that right through Santa's face on there. What I would probably try to do with this is, the horses are more the subject on it, so I would concentrate more on them for this version of the shot, and I'd go with something maybe more as a horizontal shot, something like that. So it's more about the horses this time, but difficult to tell whether you're in focus because it's so low resolution. The other thing with this one, Santa's clearly the key thing. I'd come in a lot closer on the shot, and I would have zoomed in to something like that for the photo, and then used a shallow depth of field to really put everything else out of focus. And that's what you should have been thinking about with that. So go to, if you're zooming in and you were shooting at f16, something like that, just to throw the background out of focus, and that would have helped, and that would have been a much more interesting shot on there for that. Rushkin, this was one I meant to talk about last week, and I failed. For some reason it didn't show up in the feed when I was in Lightroom on it. I think this is a cracking shot. There's such life to what we've got here but as the discussion went on the Facebook group, we really need to lose the junk there. I would probably tighten the crop a little bit as well. So that would be my sort of crop. But I would also use a selective brush, so K or the adjustment brush up here. And what I'm going to do, I bring, ooh, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the adjustment brush. Reset everything. I'm going to bring the exposure up a bit on there. And I'm going to take the flow right down. We want this quite heavily feathered. And hopefully I can then just paint in a little bit more light onto this drummer. just to make him stand out just a little, because he's getting lost in the shadow. So that's the other thing I would do with that shot on there. Moving on, that was the other image that you submitted, and in many ways I think I prefer this one because the crop is better, and I really like the way the grass skirt's moving on here. I'd still do the lightning a little bit over here on that, and just to show these guys a little bit better by adding a little bit more light in there on them, and if necessary I could just bring that up slightly on that. So that's what I would do on there. But cracking shots, Ruskin, really well done, and thank you for sharing those with the group. Adam, who I did see in the chat earlier, I hope you're still with us and that you've stuck with us for this. This one, I did comment on Facebook that there was a lot of detail down here. I've looked at it on my calibrated monitor at home. It's very difficult here in the studio when I'm looking on it because I'm under quite bright lights, which means the ambient light can make this quite difficult to see. There is detail in the beard, it really is there. So this is a really good shot. I might just try and simulate it a little bit because I don't know whether the video would hide that detail. But if I just bring that up a little bit so people can see there is detail there. Personally, I like things a little bit brighter than you were showing. So I would probably always end up with something like that where we can see the detail of the beard. But that's a nitpick, really, on there. It's a really good shot, really nice, low-key image, well presented, one to be proud of, Adam. Thank you for sharing it with the group. I hope you'll continue to share in the group as well. And since we're talking about goals for the coming year, I will also challenge you to comment on other people's images and share your advice. You clearly know what you're doing with your photography, and it'd be great for that advice to be shared on the group. Peter, nice shot. Like it on the 1/3 line. Again, I would just tweak the brightness very slightly, and probably the clarity and texture just a little bit on there for that one. Nice framing, I like it. Well done. Showing about a little bit of wall at the background there, but not a lot you could do about that anyway on that. Gary, a nice one of the tree. I do like these sort of shots where you get the sun directly behind and you're standing in the shadow creating the shot. I've done it myself a few times. So a solo tree sort of effect. I mentioned that because some of you might be having to photograph a single tree as part of the bingo challenge. So this is a really good example of how to do it. And someone pulled the plug out on the reservoir. Again, lovely shot, Gary, on there. It's those pastel autumny tones to it. Well done. It almost feels as though there's a slight tilt to it, though. I don't know whether there is, but it just feels as though there ought to be a... Oh, I don't know. Because the horizon's right. I can see the horizon's right. It's just this appears to be tilting. Let's try that with transform and horizontal. Let that do it. What I'm trying to achieve. You know, I'm not sure. I'm going to try something here that may or may not work. I put a horizon line in there. That's definitely what I want as a horizon. But I want to try and get a horizon through there. And see, that to my mind is more going through the middle of that, which means, yeah. So now what have we got? Other than the aspect ratio alter pot, which we can sort an aspect ratio with it to something back like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure on that. It's an odd one. It just felt as though there was a twist in it. But the colour-wise is nice. And again, because I pulled it from Facebook, I can't check critical focus on everything. But I do like the long exposure with the water on that, and that works well. This one, we had the conversation online. I'd like to see a bigger depth of field with it, Gary, for this one on there. And again, maybe a touch more, just a fraction more exposure there. I'm very aware that I'm under bright lights here, and it does make things look a little bit dark on my screen because of it. But I think that one just does need that little bit of lightening up on there, and maybe a bigger depth of field, because we've just got the edge of this leaf in. I'd like to see more of it. One thing to think about when you're doing these kind of shots is ask yourself the question, what's my hero leaf, my hero plant? And I wonder with this shot, what would have happened if you'd focused bang in the middle of this flower, or this set of leaves? Would that have also given you a hero leaf over here that's in the same plane as it? I don't know with that. But I'd like to see one of these leaves as a hero leaf, and none of them are really standing out as being the one leaf to look at. John, a lot of discussion about a pair of images, these. Now, I wanted to talk about this one. Let me go full screen with it. We've got we've got converging verticals. Now, what I did say online, and I stand by this, is about tilting the camera up slightly with this shot. And you just need a little bit of a tilt, because if we look in here, I zoom right in, that's the water line there on that one, and the water line there on that. So let's get everything nice and transformed straight while we're at it, guided. So I'm going to put one line across there, because that's the water lines. I'm going to do one, assuming those are level, across there. So we've got that sorted. And then I'm going to straighten those up on here. So that's what we're sort of aiming for with this. That sort of effect. But now you can see, even once we've done that, we've got so much water down here. We could, we don't want to lose the bottom of those, but we could tilt up to about here, to just below that funny little reflection there, and that would have got you the top of the columns in, the pillars in on that shot, and still kept everything as it should be. So that's what my suggestion is for that. Donata, again, we talked about this one online, and I said it was underexposed and to use exposure compensation. Just to show you, if you look here at the histogram, what the camera does is when it's in any form of automatic exposure, it will try to make everything look mid-grey, which it's done. it doesn't know whether something is meant to be white or black or whatever. It assumes that the average shade on that image is going to be mid-grey. So that's what it's gone for here. It's trying to put all this white into the mid-grey tones. So we need to sort of open that up to something like that, which is about 1 2/3 stops. So use the EV, the plus and minus exposure compensation. Then we've got this grey area at the bottom, which we can get rid of. So you'd end up with something like that. Now, I quite like having the top of that in if possible, but if we did something like that, that would give us the whole of it. Or Peter suggested a crop coming below there, so we've got a clean background on that. And that would work as well, something along those lines. And we could even brighten that up a little bit more, even the whites up a little bit, so you end up with an image like that, before and after. It doesn't do the crop though, but that's what I was talking about getting the exposure right on it. So moving on. Oh, we've got another one from John. Yeah, nice scenic, a little bit dark in the shadows. I would just bring that up a little bit, maybe then bring the highlights down. And because I like my images quite vibrant, bring that up a little bit and touch on the clarity. And you've got a cracking shot there. I'd like to see perhaps a little bit more foreground interest. There is a little bit there, but it's not obvious on that. So maybe try and find if there was something you could put there. One technique is if you're with someone, actually have them standing at the edge of the frame, maybe holding the map or a compass or something like that, looking into the scene, or a camera as though they're photographing the scene. That would help with that one. Bill submitted this one. This is from East, well, it's from a divided Berlin of East Germany, because we've got one of the watchtowers here in the snow. Really interesting shot, history-wise, taken on film. Not much I want to add to that one, Bill. Nice shot, nice bit of history. Again, watchtowers both sides. I'm assuming that's the no man's land between the two. So thank you for sharing that little bit of history with us. Difficult to comment on this one, John, because it's so low resolution. I think if I got the full resolution version, that would have been a really nice shot to talk about. This is interesting. Well, weird sky. Is that a vapor trail? Is it a crashing jet? Is it a fire on there? Again, I'd like to... I know John shared it because of the sky and said he hadn't got his proper camera with him. And that's a shame. Yeah, rule is bring the camera with you then. And I think those shadows can be opened up a little bit on there, and certainly the clarity can go up a little bit. But yeah, interesting shot. Donata, yeah, Donata. I really, really like this image. I don't know how what you've done with it. I suspect there's been a fair bit of playing around in post-production on it to make it pure black and white, but I think it's stunning as an abstract. And what really makes it work is the way you've lined up that white area to sort of cut in to the black there, so that the joins where they are, that is what makes it work. We've just got the top bit there, and I think this is superb. And I just want to say, absolutely well done. And I think the diagonals on it are right for the image, works better for that, I think, than having them horizontal on there. So thank you for sharing it. I look forward to seeing more of your work in the group, but that one's an absolutely cracking image. Neil, what can I say? Ho, ho, ho. It was a fun image. It's part of his fun photography series, Santa and Three Hoes on there. That's all I wanted to say. Anthony, phone shot, I think, on here is a little underexposed. Again, if you try playing with Snapseed on this, you could get a little bit more with the shadows. Oh, contrast. Yeah, I think it needs that contrastness. Now, with this, the question to ask yourself is, what do we actually need in the image? This side's not really adding much, and the post really isn't adding much. So we can afford to lose that, and we can afford to lose a little bit at the bottom there, and maybe just a fraction at the top. And this is one of those where, because of the reflection, we can put that in the middle like that. And once we've got that, here's the other thing to do with it, is if we flip it on the vertical, where the top section is the reflection, it gives a really weird, surreal look to it. So think about something like that with that image. Another one of Anthony's, this one, I'm going to do something a little bit weird with it. I'm going to try and I want a bit more in the sky, but I'm going to bring the contrast up, make this almost a silhouette. Bring the clarity up a bit. And I'm going to use dehaze just to put a little bit of blue into the sky. Now, all this you can do in on the phone as well. Now I've done that, the road's not adding much. If we went to something like that as a crop, I think that's a much stronger image, because it's more about the sky, and we're just using those rooftops as a framing element at the bottom with it. Gary, a series of sort of plant images that you posted. I'm going to be a bit harsh and a bit critical these, because I've seen much better work from you than the ones that you've published. I know you're trying to sort of think about what can be done with these. Now, this one, there is some potential. My eye's been drawn up to the bright area there, so I'd want to try and lose that to start with. It's a little bit brown over there, so I'd probably want to lose that as well. And maybe just bring that in and just tighten that up a little bit. Now that's starting to get somewhere, but this is still bright. And the easiest way to deal with that is with a vignette. So I'm just going to darken that down a bit on there. So if you want a colour version, that is sort of what I would go with. But I think a black and white could work quite well. So a black and white on there. Now, if I go down here and then use, actually if I go full screen, you can see, I'm going to use this little tool, which is the adjustment thing. I'm going to pick the greens and I'm going to just lighten those up. Because remember, the brighter areas are what draw the eye. So I think you could do something like that with it to create something that's a little bit more, say, unusual. And now let's see what we can get in terms of the texture into it. And clarity, those veins on there. I would go with something like that. So the before and after, if I use reset to do it, that was before and that's after. Oops, didn't mean that. So what have I lost? I've lost the clarity on there. Control Shift Z, put it back. Right, so that's the sort of thing I would do with there. with that one. Move on to the next one. Again, I'm not quite sure, but maybe something very similar with this. No, maybe not. I don't know. I think you put a slight vignette on it. It just doesn't do much for me as an image, I'm afraid, that, Gary. I've seen better work from you on there. And similarly with this one, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be looking at. My eye is getting drawn down to the leaves down here with it. Right, John, this one, I'm going to try. I already did some work on it, as you saw earlier. I like the idea that we've got this funnel in. I'd like these areas here to be true black, but we're losing detail on the train. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring the exposure down to get that true black. I want to make sure I'm getting it. Just bring the blacks right down on there. So I now need to bring this area back up, and I'm going to use an adjustment brush, and I'm just going to bring the shadows up, that up, and I'm going to bring the flow fairly high on this one, and I just want to get that detail back that's in that area. And if I bring the exposure down and the shadows up, hopefully I can just be affecting the areas that I need to with it. Get all that detail back in there. And maybe just use the blacks on that slider there. So now take those off. So you get something like that. And I think that framing effect really works with it. Perhaps I could do with a bit more of an adjustment brush on there. So a new one, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint in just a little bit more on the train, so we get that. Whoa, too far with that. Bring that down, just so we've got the detail in the train. Oh, I didn't mean to drag it around. Put it somewhere where it's obviously the wrong place. Control Z to bring it back. Right. Yeah. So I'm just going to try adding that little bit more light into it, just so that we can see what's going on. And I think that's the way to deal with that image, is to create an abstract from it. So again, I do before and after, and you can see the sort of change that we've made with it. But it's these big black areas that make it work. So that's what I would do with that. Right, Gary, again, back to another one of yours. I really am in two minds about this one, Gary. Part of me thinks, yeah, great shot. I sort of like the bokeh behind it, but I don't like the placement of the grass seed in the middle. I don't think bullseyeing it works. I think it should be probably a horizontal shot with the grass seed maybe over to one edge, certainly no further than a third of the way into it on that. The split toning is great, and I think that sort of composition change would probably work well with the image. I think this is my last one on here, Donata. Right. There's interesting post-processing on this. I'm not sure whether it's gone a little bit too far with the fog effect on it, on there, but I think one of the problems I want to correct with this is it's a transformation. I do need to do it guided, so we want that horizon line in there, but really want these to be vertical. which would give us something like, no, that's not good. Oh, that's going to be horrible when I move it. Right, so we get that to there. Those are vertical. That's horizontal. That's the sort of thing I was trying to achieve. Maybe, can we get that one horizontal as well? Yes, there we go. And put that down. So I think that little tweak, which means we're going from that to there, just to straighten things up a little bit on it, is what it needs on there. I actually quite like the toning on it, but it just feels a little bit patchy, almost as though the fog's been put on in post, because we've got this area where it seems to be just a blob around the buoy there. So if you've done it in post, then it's a little uneven. It doesn't feel quite realistic. If that was genuine, that is some weird weather conditions that you were in for it. And yep, that was my last one. So let's have a look at what's been going on in the comments while I've been talking. Ooh, a few. Right, okay. Adam saying thank you for the kind words. Tim, question from Tim. Saying please answer during a later live stream. Let me have a read of the question anyway. Is a crop camera, so 1.6, better than a full frame to achieve a more pleasing blurred background on the same subject or focus? Right, the answer is no on that, but I'll deal with it on another live stream and try and explain the science behind why that is the case on there. So that's that. So that was my only question in chat by the looks of it. So time for me to wrap up. Don't disappear just yet, but thank you all for watching and thank you for letting me loose on your images as ever. And if you found this useful and you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the live stream. Please comment. Please hit the like button and all that stuff. And if you found it helpful and you want to support me financially for doing these, then the Buy Me a Cuppa link is over my shoulder and the link's down in the description below. And as I said earlier, my thanks to David Wayne for this week's cuppa. Cheers, David. And everyone who's got a credit already from Buy Me a Cuppa or buys me one before Saturday next week, I'll send out my New Year's goals inspiration sheet, which covers the same sort of topics I was talking about earlier on that. And here we go, our image of the week, and I've picked this one from Donata. I thought this was a stunning image. I had to have it for the image of the week this week as the cover image on the Facebook group. So thank you, Donata. The one thing you'll notice is I have flipped it to get the lamp on the right hand side to match up, to mirror where my logo is on there. Hope you don't mind me doing that. And I'll change that very shortly, and your image will be there until this time next week. So thank you, Donata. So whose will be next week's image of the week on there? Next week, I'm going to do something a little bit different. This should be the start. Next Sunday is the start of our going twice weekly. So it should be a shorter stream. This one was only 1 hour 40, so I am getting them shorter. So next week, there won't be specific feedback on Sunday night. That will be the following Wednesday, not this coming Wednesday, the following Wednesday. But I'm going to be looking at my top 10 images from 2020. I haven't taken many, to be honest. Finding 10 images in itself is going to be a challenge for 2020. But no, I have got some. So I'm going to choose my top 10 and talk you through them, why they were taken, how they were taken. And I'm also going to talk through the process of how I chose them, how I edited down to find those 10. So your challenge this week, folks, is to post your top 10 images to the Facebook group, and then those will be the images I will talk about a week on Wednesday for the first of the midweek feedback sessions, which will tie in with the Sunday night teaching sessions. So that's all coming up. So thank you, folks, on there. And really, that's all I've got to say, other than to wish you all the best for the new year. Don't forget to sign up for the bingo challenge as well on the Facebook group. It'd be great to see some of you who are on the chat take part in that, who haven't signed up for it already. So thank you, everyone. And until next year, I can say that this time, until next year, keep making great photos, and bye for now. Right, this is the bit where I do the alternative ending to the live stream. This is for the cut down version. So here goes. Thanks for watching this cut down version of In Studio Live. The full version is now in my Academy. If you want to join the Academy, the details are there on the screen. It's also down in the description below this video. So have a look at that. Of course, highlights are being posted to the Facebook group, to the YouTube feed. We've got stuff on my Facebook group, so go and have a look at those as well. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And until then, as ever, keep making great photos. Bye for now.